Welcome to the Heartlifter Way. I'm Janell Rardon, and this is a gentle space for emotionally weary women to breathe, heal, and carry life differently. Here on the Heartlifter Way, we walk the gentle path, grounded in what is real, expressing emotions with self-compassion, nourishing our nervous systems, trusting in God's daily presence and care, listening to our body's quiet wisdom, and embracing micro movements forward in hope. Today's conversation begins with a simple question to carry. How do we discern God's gentle nudges when our emotions are loud? Gentle nudges are moments of growing awareness in which our thoughts, emotions, body, relationships, and prayerful reflection begin moving toward the same life-giving direction. They are less about certainty and more about increasing alignment. And notice that word, alignment. I think it's one of our key words here in a birth season, 90 days of discernment. Gentle nudges often look like, instead of a dramatic sign, a recurring thought you can't quite shake. A quiet longing that keeps returning. A deep sense of peace rather than urgency. Your body relaxing. Oh, my shoulders just dropped. Instead of tightening. Notice your jaw right now. Notice your shoulders, your fist, your body. Let it just take a breath. A gentle nudge can look like scripture coming alive in a fresh way. A trusted conversation that confirms what you've already been sensing. An unexpected opportunity that aligns with your values. And small, holy convergences. I've talked a lot about a holy convergence Rob and I have felt down at the Cape Hatteras Point when the water is coming from the left and the right and the middle, and it's holy ground. It's amazing. Holy convergences that invite reflection rather than demand conclusions. Not proof, but an invitation. What gentle nudges aren't, well, fear-driven urgency, impulsive decisions, impetuousness, I've talked about that, emotional flooding, magical thinking, forcing certainty, and searching for signs everywhere. Last week on Substack, I wrote, I'm not here teaching how to look for signs, but how to be attentive to signs and wonders or natural invitations that cross our path. And then spend some time interpreting them, finding meaning, seeing if God might be trying to get your attention in order to speak and align you with His divine purpose. And as we reflect on that in the framework of this theology of gentleness that we're developing together here, God's gentle nudges are invitations, never coercion. Love whispers because it desires relationship, not control. So the beautiful metaphors I've been sharing have been a lot around gardening and birding And so gentle nudges are like the first green shoot emerging through the soil. They don't announce themselves with certainty. They simply invite us to stop and to notice that new life has begun. Every day when I look out my front windows now, a dahlia is blooming. I have some on the left side of my house and the right side. And when I go to my front windows where all my bird feeders are, and I sit in my breathing room and take an exhale, they're just popping their little heads up and saying, good morning, good afternoon. It's a new day, fresh mercies, tender, tender grace. And it just makes me smile. Our 4 discernment questions in this birthing season. What keeps returning? That was last episode. What gentle nudges am I sensing and feeling? That's today. What is my body noticing? Next week. And what is becoming clearer the week after that? So as I'm developing this beautiful birth season, my signature definition then of gentle nudges is this. Gentle nudges are God's quiet invitations that draw our attention to what He is bringing to life within and around us. As we practice gentle acceptance, which we're going to talk about today, it's a newfound teaching, and walk at the pace of love, these invitations become easier to recognize. Not because they grow louder, but because we become more attentive and attuned. They gently lead us toward one faithful micro step, micro shift at a time. Discernment isn't learning to hear a louder voice from God. It's becoming the kind of person who notices His quieter ones. I really love that. I want to begin with something incredibly relatable, I think. When we're in a season of discernment, like we are, we often assume the clearest voice wins. Think about this. But what if that's not true? What if the loudest voice is fear, or grief, or uncertainty, or doubt, or hesitancy? What if God's invitations are often quieter, not because He's absent, not because He's asleep, or not because He doesn't care? No. But because He speaks in the language of peace rather than panic. I'm carrying this question of how do we discern God's gentle nudges when our emotions are loud very closely right now, because emotions are loud. And if you are an emotional person like I am, they're going to be very loud, and that can be cacophonous, or we could say confusing, chaotic. And so I have been carrying this question and really developing this skill of learning to feel, to sense the quiet, gentle nudging. I've been discovering that before we discern God's nudges, we must first learn to receive the moment we are already living in. Hang in here with me. Now, all of this is just in the developmental stages. So I am just bringing to you hot off the press of my heart, mind, soul, and body as I move through my own birth season of trying to discern next movements in my life, in Rob's life, and in our family's life, and in my vocational work. So sometimes we miss gentle nudges because we ask God, tell me what to do. Well, that's not a question. It's actually an imperative statement. It's a command. God, tell me what to do. But our nervous systems are flooded. Typically, when we're on a threshold and moving into a transitional season or movement in our lives, That can take many forms: divorce, remarriage, the death of a loved one, moving across country. It can take lots of forms. So our nervous systems typically, when we're trying to make a decision that carries a lot of gravity and weight, our nervous systems are easily flooded. Our minds race. Our emotions are loud. Our bodies are tense and gripping, and in the language I use with my clients is armored up, and not in the spiritual warfare way, in the defensive mechanism way. We're trying to hear whispers while standing inside a storm. Marsha Linehan, the developer of a modality called dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, as we say in the biz, coined a phrase, radical acceptance, and it became widely known. And then Tara Brach, another brilliant, beautiful meditative worker, developed her idea of radical acceptance. And I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were introducing and talking this through. And when we were done, I thought to myself a lot about the word radical. Yeah. And I just began to entertain, which is what I do when I start to feel nudgings to study something a little bit more. I thought about, well, what if we reframed that in the theology of gentleness during this birth season as a gentle acceptance? Because in my overachieving, high-functioning way of living life and striving and performing and all of those exhausting ways of being in the world, I thought, I really need to take a moment and consider this, and perhaps transform it into a gentle acceptance when we're on a threshold of suffering or transition. So just as we begin, I want to read, Tara Brach defines radical acceptance as clearly recognizing what is happening in the present moment and allowing the experience to be there without fighting it. Brilliant. Okay, so it's all about being in the present moment, boots on the ground, inside of your body, aware you're in your body, you're not detaching from your body, you're staying present even if it hurts really, really, really bad. Marsha Linehan, then, the creator of dialectical behavioral therapy, describes radical acceptance as one of the core skills for reducing suffering. That was the primary motivation of her work, was to study pain and suffering and then how to reduce that while you're in the midst of it. One of her clearest definitions is radical acceptance means completely and totally accepting something from the depths of your soul with your heart and your mind. She explains acceptance is acknowledging what is. Acceptance is the only way out of hell. Pain plus non-acceptance equals suffering. Wow, you might have to rewind this because that is such solid teaching. In DBT, Linehan distinguishes between pain, which is an inevitable part of life, and suffering, which is often intensified when we resist reality. Radical acceptance is not about approving of what has happened or pretending it is good. It is about fully, now she has said these words, fully, totally, and completely, accepting and acknowledging reality so that we can respond wisely with a wise mind, is how Tara Brach would say that. And of course, Jesus himself tells us to be wise, rather than remain trapped or stuck in an internal battle against what cannot be changed in the present moment. Well, that's the serenity prayer, isn't it? God, give me the courage to accept what cannot be changed. ... The key here being staying in the present moment. Now, I have enlarged this understanding into something I'm calling gentle acceptance, the sacred practice of gentle acceptance. My working definition, gentle acceptance is the sacred practice of receiving reality as it is, meeting ourselves with compassion and gentleness instead of condemnation and shame, listening to the wisdom, the quiet wisdom of our bodies. That means paying attention to our feelings and our sensations, and welcoming God's loving presence so that we can discern our next faithful micro step or micro shift. Keywords in this working definition is sacred, because we are adding and bringing in our faith here. This is a faith-based definition, we would say, and receiving reality as it is. And I'm going to pause here for a moment, because we've talked in several episodes of the past about this term we call spiritual bypassing. It's a relatively new term, but we also know bypassing is an age-old term. And it simply just means that we don't notice and we don't receive reality as it is. We bypass it. And in spiritual language, we might say things like, you just need to let it go. You just need to pray about it. You just need to move on. Leave the past in the past and keep going. None of those things are wrong, but they are not actually accepting and acknowledging the state of the reality that you are currently in. Perhaps a spouse has just left you and you have found out they've cheated on you. Okay. Perhaps a child has left the nest and you haven't heard from them since. Perhaps you fill in your blank. Something really painful and difficult has come into your life. And I'm speaking more about emotional agony and pain and mental pain today than I am physical. It is applicable to the physical. But as we do here, we want to really strengthen our emotional, mental, relational health and our spiritual health. So we don't want to pretend or ignore what's happening in our current reality. As painful as it might be, we actually want to embody that. And the theology of gentleness is an embodied spiritual practice, an embodied way of being in the world, meaning we are very, very much living in the present moment and learning how to navigate our way through it. So let's notice the order in this definition. Discern, then accept. Accept, then discern. The Heartlifter difference here, the Heartlifter way, is gentle acceptance says reality is here and God is here too. I wrote about this in Overcoming Hurtful Words, my second book. I wrote, Welcome God into Your Whys. So you can read more about that in that book. Now, as we're working through and developing that even further, we are saying gentle acceptance. There's actually a name for that now. I love how I have grown as I have been working and developing and writing these books and where I am today, because we're always learning here, aren't we? So gentle acceptance says reality is here and God is here too. A different kind of discernment that is emerging from the studies that I find myself in is accompaniment. That's a hard word for me to say. Accompaniement. Not sure why I'm having such trouble saying it, but I am. And I believe it is quietly becoming one of our deepest themes here in a birth season, because one of the things I've been slowly learning is that God rarely hands us a map. Rarely. Instead, he offers his companionship. I think so often that we ask, Lord, where should I go? What should I do and where should I go? But perhaps a better question is, Lord, will you walk with me? Wow. Because that's the story of the scriptures that both you and I love so much. God walks right from the beginning with Adam and Eve in the garden. He walks with Abraham into the unknown, Genesis 12. He accompanies Israel through the wilderness. He walks beside the disciples on the road to Emmaus. You see, Jesus is never, and we can actually say that universal statement, never in a hurry. Love has a walking speed. And I shared with my client yesterday as well that years ago I wrote a beautiful online course called Be Remarkable. And I just loved that course. And I wrote about a walking speed, but I called it a pace. And I used a metronome as a former clarinet player. Metronomes were very important to our symphonic band. And a walking speed is about 68 beats per minute. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can actually hear it. You see, love rarely rushes. This is the lesson I'm most learning right now in the middle of this journey through my own birth season. Love pays close, keen attention. Love notices when someone is falling behind. And for me, in this situation, it would be Rob, my husband, and I. I'm really learning how to walk in unity. I was in a marching band as well, and so I know the importance of left, right, and being in complete unity as far as the pace of our walking steps go. It's just something that's becoming critically important in my marriage of almost 43 years, as Rob and I stand on the threshold of something new and adventurous that we believe we're going to do. And it's critically important, I'm saying that a lot, I hear myself, that we be in step. And it reminds me of the scripture, I'll find the address, keep in step with the Spirit. That's just now coming to me. I got a little download there. Keep in step with the Spirit. You see, if love notices when someone's falling behind, love slows down. Because I'm really trying to meditate on this thought and dig deeper into love has a walking speed. And if love has a walking speed, perhaps God does too. I think he does. I'm getting pretty convinced. Perhaps discernment isn't keeping up with God. Perhaps it's discovering the pace at which he is already walking beside us. What if God's greatest gift during seasons of uncertainty and doubt and discernment isn't immediate clarity? And I'm going to verify without sharing too much. I just can't share too much yet. But I am not getting immediate clarity. I am noticing lots of signs and wonders that God is doing, and he is speaking, and I'm really trying to make sense of it and be in step with him and not get ahead of the game. What if God's greatest gift then, during a season of this uncertainty we're talking about, isn't clarity, immediate clarity, but what if it's companionship? Yeah. I tell you, this is really speaking to my heart. And it is adding life to my relationship with Rob. And we are really walking in step like we've never walked before, I believe. Because companionship, you see, involves unity, and that changes everything. Amos 3:3 says, "Can two walk together unless they be agreed?" And that agreed there means in step with each other, in unity, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. When we're anxious, God stays. When we're grieving, He stays. When we're confused, He doesn't pull away. He draws near. James says, "Draw near to me, and I will draw near to you." Discernment begins to feel less like solving a puzzle and more like walking with someone who already knows the way. Gentle acceptance makes room for accompaniment. Jesus accompanies us, and that's why gentle acceptance matters so much. When we stop fighting the present moment and we gently accept it, we become available to God's presence within it. I'm going to repeat that. When we stop fighting the present moment, or we might say kicking and screaming against it, or numbing against it, we become available to God's presence within the storm. Acceptance doesn't eliminate our questions, no. It simply creates enough quiet for us to notice we are not walking alone. Wow. This is what I'm watching happen in my own life, not certainty. No. But I will add, there is a deep inner knowing. I call that my knower. And I've lived long enough that I've come to trust my knower. Capital, well, no, can't be capital because God is the ultimate knower. My Knower, my knower. Because if I don't have certainty and I don't have that perfectly drawn map, I can know and trust and believe, 1 John 4:16, that I am gently being accompanied by God. That is gentle companionship. And I've been seeing these beautiful signs like the little oak I talked about, the little red house finch, conversations with Rob, unexpected letters in my mailbox, through my own body's quiet responses. Each one has felt less like a command and more like God saying to me, keep walking with me. I've got this. I've got this. So I wonder if I can offer another working definition. This is just what I do when I'm developing something, and it's so much fun. How about working definition 1? Accompaniment is God's loving practice of walking with us at the pace of transformation rather than the pace of urgency. Or working definition number 2, divine accompaniment is God's faithful presence with us in every season, inviting us to walk at the pace of love rather than the pace of fear. God is far more committed, Heartlifter, to walking with you than rushing you. I repeat, God is far more committed to walking with you than rushing you. I feel as though I can say this with command. God is never in a rush. We are. So we've determined that God's nudges rarely begin with certainty. He doesn't hand us a map, not typically, but they often begin with a recurring thought. I keep coming back to this, you might say, in your mind. Or as I've been saying, oh, there's that moonflower lesson again. That's coming back. And the goldfinches are teaching me more than they did 2 decades ago. Bridges. I live in Virginia. I live on the East Coast near Virginia Beach. The Atlantic Ocean is all around me. Rivers. We have so many bridges and tunnels in this area. And as I am going over them again, I write a lot about them in my 3rd book. They're coming back to teach me even more. So what recurring thought or thoughts might keep coming back to you? That would be a gentle little nudge. A quiet, deep longing. I have had a quiet, deep longing since I can earliestly recall it at age 10 for a family in which I felt seen, heard, known, loved, and belonged. Now I can give language to that. That's attachment, secure attachment. I've shared that I lived next to a family that imaged that to me, and then I would go home and be in the midst of my alcoholic home and think, wow, this is really different. I just didn't know why, but I sensed it and I felt it in my highly sensitive body, and a gentle longing that has continued all through my life is that I want a beautiful home, not so much house, but a beautiful home in which all of my children and family feel safe, seen, known, loved, and belong. And now as a grandmother, I have a deeper than ever longing to be near my grandchildren somehow or another. Not over FaceTime, not over WhatsApp, not over all the gadgets and gizmos, but somewhere where they can walk in my home, ride their bike to my home. I can make them a snack or just have them sleep over. That is pulsating stronger than ever with baby grandchild number 6 coming the end of September. Sometimes a gentle nudge will be a bodily sensation, like your shoulders are relaxed or you just feel at ease in your body. That is truly the greatest work of the latter part of my life now, is just to live a life filled with ease and peace. My shoulders are relaxed, my breathing softens, I feel peace. A gentle nudge might be a growing alignment. The pieces aren't all together, but they seem to be gently moving in one direction. Just like when you're putting together a puzzle, one piece, next piece, next piece, next piece. It's all starting to make a grand, beautiful picture. Everything is aligning. So here is a beautiful practice for us to do as we are closing. Just get comfortable somewhere. Maybe place your feet on the floor. If you're driving, which I am typically doing when I'm listening to podcasts, don't close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open, but loosen your hands on the wheel just a bit. Let your shoulders relax. Maybe relax your jaw. And let's just take one slow, deep breath. Breathing in. This becomes the rhythm of walking with God. Name 3 truths. one about your thoughts, one about your emotions, and one about your body. And then ask, can I allow this moment to be exactly as it is, while trusting that I do not have to stay here forever? And instead of asking, what decision should I make? Ask this and carry this question throughout this week. What gentle nudge have I been too busy, too afraid, or too resistant to notice? Pray with me. Father, when my emotions are louder than your whispers, teach me not to fear them or resist them. Help me receive the moment with gentleness. Quiet my stirring and striving without silencing my questions. Open my eyes to the gentle nudges you are already placing before me. Give me courage to trust one faithful step more than perfect certainty. May I become a person who recognizes your invitations because I have learned to welcome your presence. Amen. Thank you for listening today, Heartlifter. I am so thankful to have had this time and space with you. I know how many places and spaces compete for your attention, and for you to be here means the world to me. Please share it with family and friends, coworkers, and anyone you meet along your gentle path, your Heartlifter way. And be sure to meet me over on Substack at Heartlift Wellness or Instagram at Janell Rardon. May we pray our discernment prayer together. God, help me listen for what keeps returning. Give me eyes to see what is taking shape, ears to hear your gentle invitations, and courage to trust the unfolding process. May I follow peace rather than pressure, wisdom rather than urgency, and your presence rather than perfection. Teach me to honor the quiet language of my body, the wisdom of my soul, and the light you have placed before me. One luminous, gentle, faithful step at a time. Amen.